As a property manager, you know how important it is to turn leads into leases. And one of the best ways to do that is by writing good copy. Now, you may or may not know what that is, but that's something we're going to cover today. My name's Chandra. I am the content writer with Market Apartments, and this is Danny.
Hello, I'm Danny and I do the social media.
So we wanted to talk a little bit about how to write ads, sales letters, sales pages, emails, things like that, that'll get renters' attention and get them to kind of take the next step, to take action. All of that is basically what copywriting is. Copywriting is persuasive writing that you're going to use to get sales. So we're going to dive a little bit into that today, probably not with too much detail on each different type of copywriting, but we do want to talk about some of the like best practices with it. And we'll run some of our, best tips to help you write good copy, even if you're pretty new to it. And even if you're just kind of getting your feet wet a little with apartment marketing. So Danny, what would you say is kind of our first step when it comes to this like approach? What's our number one like tip? What's the first thing to do?
Okay, so the first thing that you want to do, like in any marketing at all, first of all, is you want to consider who you're talking to. So, because obviously you have something to sell. So you need to connect with whoever wants to buy it, whoever needs this thing. So it's all about connection. We always say that. But so you need to consider who you're talking to. And this is renters in this case. So you want to keep your copy and content, specifically in this case, copy, but you need to keep it like renter focused. So you want to talk directly to them. So you can actually use you in your copy, like the word you, and call them out specifically, like, hey, are you looking for an apartment in such and such area? This is what we have. This is what we can offer. So always keep your audience in mind. That would be tip number one. What do they want? What are their obstacles? Like, how can you help them remove those obstacles to help them get what they want, essentially? So for renters specifically, are they looking for a pet-friendly apartment? Are they looking for something that's close to work? Do they want their washer and dryer unit to be in their apartment? Like,
Right.
yeah, what kinds of things do they want? Like, is price an issue? Or like, do they just not want to sign because they don't want to pay the application fee? Like maybe you can waive that, things like that. But you want to keep in mind who they are, what they're going through, what they're trying to do, and then like tell them how you make the process easier for them, essentially.
Right. Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah. And then I would say for tip number two, you want to consider like how you're saying this as well. So it's like you're talking to them about what you can do for them, but you always want to consider how you're coming across as well, because tone is huge. So you want to be on brand, you want to be professional, but you also want to be like friendly and approachable too. You don't want to be like, so you want to just be like, hey, you're looking for an apartment. We've got what you need. So,
Yeah.
and you want to be human and empathetic because
Mhm.
moving is stressful and trying to find a new place that fits all of your needs. And maybe you have to compromise on things that can be stressful too. So you want to be really empathetic and make sure that they're getting the info that they need, but like doing it in a friendly way.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's super important. Yeah. Number one rule, I think, for all marketing is to figure out who your audience is. But I think that a lot of people don't think as much about their like brand voice and how that comes across, but you are the other part of that equation, we think so often a brand is just like a logo and colors. And yeah, that's really easy and it's fun. And you get to work with the designer and you get that done. You're like,
Yeah.
"Okay, done." But your brand voice is really important too. And yeah, if you don't have a lot of clarity on that, friendly, conversational is definitely the best way to go. But it's really important because you want to like really focus on what these people want, and the best way to like help them understand that you have that solution basically is to talk to them in a way that they are going to understand and in a way that really grabs their attention.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So speaking of getting their attention, that would kind of be the next thing, is focusing on hooks. Anyone who's done any sort of like copywriting or studying copy at all, or ads at all, is going to know a little bit about hooks. But it's usually your like title, subtitle, something that you've written right at the beginning that's going to really grab their attention. So something that your audience, so your renters, or potential renters are really going to like relate to, be interested in, wonder about. You want to make sure that it's pretty concise because you don't have a lot of time to get their attention. And then you want to show like a little bit of, the value you offer. Maybe it's something that, you know, gets them curious about something because you're not saying everything yet. But you always want to make sure that it's renter focused. So, and hooks you're going to use for pretty much every kind of writing, ads, banners. A lot of times you'll even use hooks at the beginning of stuff that's more content, even though it's content, like blogs and stuff like that. But especially for things like ads, sales pages, a lot of your web pages, you want to start with something that's going to grab their attention and make them want to keep reading. So,
Yeah, so one of the things with hooks is like they're literally everywhere, even in your social media, so in your reels. And you only have like a little bit of time to get people's attention with that, like 3 seconds. And Brock Johnson talks about this a whole bunch too, because he's on Instagram, he's an Instagram expert, and he talks about hooks a lot. Or One Peak Creative, they talk about hooks a lot. But the thing is, like, the hook is supposed to get the attention quickly. Sometimes it can present like a mystery, like, ooh, what's gonna happen next? So it gets people to read, kind of a thing. But like, you do want it to be like really eye-catching, something that's like, I have to know more, I have to know what happens next, kind of thing. Or just like something that they need, because that's going to call out specifically to your renters. So like a couple of examples, like we'll pay your moving expenses when you sign with us, or like first month free, fill out an application by Friday to apply or to qualify. Or even just saying like 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartment in Denver, Colorado, like being very specific. Like, or then you can also add like check out our floor plans as a bonus call to action.
yeah, yeah.
So you're getting like both of them there. But yeah, things that your renter is interested in, that they're looking for specifically. So like even saying like we're pet friendly or something like that.
Yes. Or, I think we've seen a lot of people online who'll say, you'll never believe that this happened or something, which is
Yeah.
a little clickbaity. But I think the point I want to make here is anything that leads into a story is also a really good hook, because you're like, people will want to know the ending. So something that makes them curious about where you're going, is really good. I mean, all of those examples you just gave are like killer offers. So of course your renter is going to be interested.
Right.
Like if you've got something like that, that really should be the first thing you put. That's a massive hook because
Yeah.
it's very in line with what renters really need and want. Anything that like saves them money or makes the application process easier or the moving process easier, they're ready for that. They're very excited for that. So that's what makes those really, really good, because they're so renter focused, so renter oriented. So that's really good. But yeah, that's the biggest thing, is just like making sure that you can say something that grabs their attention. And luckily, with a lot of things, if you're writing ads, you're doing even like email marketing, stuff like that. A lot of times there are options for you to kind of like A/B test. You can test some of these and see what's most effective so that down the line, what works best. And actually does grab their attention. But like keep that in mind. Would you keep reading if that was a thing
Oh
that
yeah.
you saw? It came into your inbox or across your desk or whatever, you're scrolling. Is it a thing that you would stop for? Because that I think is pretty telling, And I mean, you're not your target audience, so they might stop anyway, but it is something to think about. Think about the kinds of things that do grab your attention,
Yeah.
and kind of go from there,
Yeah, for sure. When you were
Mhm.
talking about like leading into a story too, it reminded me of the really famous headline that's like, they laughed at me when I sat down at the piano, but when I began to play, dot, dot, dot.
Uh-huh.
But like, yeah, you can definitely use stories, because we were talking about in the other video, like people really connect with story. And so
Mhm.
like, if you can tell them a story, they're like, they remember it more, but it's also like more relatable to them in their situation. Like we were talking
Mhm.
about like with reviews.
Mhm.
Those
Yeah.
are stories essentially. Or you can tell them about like experiences that people have had, even at like resident events, or like
Mhm.
things that may have been like a difficult situation, but it got
Right.
handled because you guys are on it. And that
Right.
can make all the difference.
Right. Yeah. No, stories are incredible. I mean, they're how we make meaning.
Hmm.
So It's something, it's like, we have to know what happens next. And so it's a really compelling way. Like, you know, a little bit about psychology, you know, that's like a really great way to get
Sure.
people engaged with what you're writing. So stories are incredible. I mean, anything that can kind of pique someone's curiosity or can evoke emotion somehow is going to be much more impactful than just saying a thing. Do you know what I mean?
For
Doesn't
sure.
mean that that thing, like you said, the 3-bed, 2-bath apartments for rent in your city, that could be just as impactful to somebody. But it is a really great strategy if you're struggling reaching people to like go, okay, well, how can I make my hooks better? How could I really grab someone's
Mm-hmm.
attention? Um, how can I get them to kind of mentally engage immediately?
Yes.
Um, and it's not always easy, but it can be a fun process trying, you
Yeah,
know?
for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, especially if they're just like scrolling on Instagram or whatever, and you happen to
Mhm.
have an ad. If that's what they're looking for, they're gonna stop and look at it and be like,
Mhm. Yeah. Yes. Again, knowing your people. So I think beyond that, your first line, so the next thing that follows that they're going to read needs to be, I mean, just as good.
oh yeah,
The whole idea of really any type of copy, no matter what it is, whether you're writing a short ad or like a long sales page, is literally like each line needs to lead into the next and make you
yes.
want to read the next one. And so, you know, you're kind of not off the hook after
Yeah.
the hook, basically. You have to keep going.
You hooked the fish, but are they gonna stay on the line while you reel them
Right.
in?
Right. And so you've got to think about that though. And so yeah. So I think Danny had a good example with the like we'll pay for your moving expenses when you sign with us. But then if your next line is like, well, in this financial climate, and you like change tone and it's very serious, um, you know, you just might lose them. So think about that. Think about what's going to keep them interested and also keep talking directly, talk to them. Again, audience, that was the number one tip. Talk
Mm-hmm.
to them, keep their desires, their pain points, like everything that is part of their experience in mind. So you're meeting them where they're at.
Yes.
Because that's what's going to make all the difference, essentially. The more you know about where they're at in their journey, the better. You'll be able to kind of guide them through each step of that using your copy, using what you've written. So I don't know, just more things to keep in mind.
For sure. Yeah. So like
Mhm.
with the example, if I can add a second, like
Yeah, yeah.
the first line for that, like we'll pay for your moving expenses when you sign a lease for us. The
Hmm.
first line might be moving sucks, but you can get your expenses paid up to like a certain insert price
Hmm.
here,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
depending on what like apartment
Right.
complexes are able
Right.
to do,
Right,
obviously.
right, right. Well,
But
how
like,
validating is that for them,
oh, for sure, yeah.
content wise? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But that could be like a good first line that goes along, like it keeps the tone and it's also like, yes, we're actually serious about this thing. We're not just like clickbaiting you right now, but like you
Right.
can actually get this thing.
Yeah, exactly. I think that that's really great. Like, and just being specific about what you're offering, because
Mm.
that's gonna make a difference too.
Oh yeah.
Tell them exactly the price you're offering them, what kind of like, is this some sort of like reimbursement? Are you gonna hook them up with what? Like,
Right.
give them the
Oh yeah.
details.
Yeah. Being very
Um,
specific.
Think
Hmm.
about what they're going to want to know and just tell them that. Like, it doesn't have to be like, again, it doesn't have to be like, it's not clickbait. Like, you're not
Hmm.
trying to just like deceive them. You're not trying to just get them to click. You actually want to help them. You actually want them
Yes.
to come live with you at this property. Like, it's mutually beneficial. So, like, think about that. Yeah. And so like, and then the further you go, I think, you know, with the body copy, everything, it's like I said, it's very much there's a very particular flow to it. You can always look up really specific structures if you're looking for more
Hmm.
guidance and like a bit more detail on something, especially if it's like a long form thing, like a sales page, which does tend to be a lot
Yes.
longer, you know, or an email. Then there will be quite a bit of body copy, whereas like a lot of these other things might just be an ad, you know, maybe it's a
Yeah.
social media thing. You'll have a caption. So there might be some body, but it's a little bit, it's shorter. So if,
Hmm.
especially if it's longer, you can definitely find things online that'll help walk you through a really specific structure if you need some help. But the biggest thing is just making sure that it naturally flows, that
Yes.
each like sentence, each paragraph, whatever leads into the next, and that it helps those people, like you said, stay on the line, like follow it exactly and answer whatever question they might be thinking next,
Yes.
the next information that they need.
Yes, that's actually really huge. Frank Kern talks about that specifically
Mhm,
when he talks about how to set up and how to structure like sales pages specifically. It's
mhm,
like there is a natural flow to how people think. And so if
mhm,
you can get into that groove and you can just kind of keep that in line, like what are they thinking when you said this thing? Are they going
right.
to have a question about this other thing? Can you
Mhm,
take that objection that they have? Can you like say, or can you refute that? He's actually really good at just like improving this stuff too. And he can just like go through it. But it's like, if you say we're pet friendly, we have like a dog park, it's like, what are they going to be thinking next? You
mhm,
know, and then you just
mhm.
take what the natural flow is, and then you just answer the next question, just keep going that direction.
Yeah. Like you're just taking them from this initial contact with you, and probably not knowing a lot about your property, not knowing what you offer. They might know what they're looking for, but then it's up to you in your writing to say, hey, we have all these things that you're looking for, and to do it in a
Yes.
way that makes sense to them. So,
Mm-hmm.
you want to make sure that you are really consistent in your tone, and I would say that you're as concise as you can be.
Mm-hmm.
As I've said before, if you watch like our other video, it is really, really important to be clear. Like
Yes.
clarity is more important than probably anything in the way you write, because you want to make sure that they're following you, that they know exactly what to do next. So it means you want to make it really readable. You don't want to like, you're not going to throw in some big words that nobody knows. Like you really want to make sure that it's the way you talk, because clarity is really important. And you do want to be concise in as much as you can to maintain that kind of clarity.
Mm-hmm.
But also make sure that you're just like not boring. Like, how would you talk to them in person? How would you get their attention? What are the things you would highlight that would make your property stand out, or the particular part of your property, like an amenity or a floor plan that you're talking about? Like, how do those things stand out? What's exciting about them? What's fun about them? What would their life be like if they had them? So, um, yeah, I would say definitely keep that in mind. Be clear, and then as concise as you can be, and then just like consistent in your tone and in your approach to them so that they trust you.
Oh yeah, for sure. Because that does build trust when you're like very clear about it and you can show the specifics like we were talking about earlier. Like
Right.
if you can be
Mhm.
specific, put the numbers out there, that also makes you more memorable as well. So, because people remember numbers, but
Mhm.
yeah, so being concise is really huge for building trust. And you do
Mhm.
want to take them through that initial phase where they don't know you, but you do want to line up the whole know, like, and trust you because people have to do that before they make a purchase, essentially.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, and this is huge. This is where they're gonna live. So you definitely need to build up that trust.
Yeah. It's a big commitment. I mean, if I'm going to sign a year-long contract somewhere, I want to be pretty sure about it,
Yeah.
which is another reason too. I mean, we would say like, one of the biggest rules, I guess, I don't know if you call it a rule, but just like recommendations from a lot of like copy experts is highlighting benefits,
Yes.
right? So you don't want to just list the features of your apartment or property. You don't want to just like a long list of all the things. I mean, granted, if they're good enough, that might sell it anyway. People will be like, ooh, I want a
Right.
pool, I want
Yeah.
like that it could. But especially if you're struggling reaching people, that it's really important to highlight the benefits. And what we mean by that is the benefit to the renter. So like, how does that make their life better? You know, it's not just, oh, we've got a dog park and we've got in-unit laundry and we've got like, what makes that better? I mean, if you're a pet friendly property and you've got a dog park, they can take their dog walking easily,
Mm-hmm.
think about different circumstances. Maybe someone works from home, they can walk them whenever they come home. They don't have to take their dog somewhere else to go on a really good walk. They can just be at home because there's somewhere right there that their dog can kind of get out its energy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the laundromat like example is a really big one because most people prefer an in-unit washer and dryer. It's really big on renters like lists of kind of requirements or preferences.
Yep.
And so if you can highlight the benefits of that, don't just say, hey, we have an in-unit washer and dryer, though honestly, a lot of people would just, that's good.
Yeah.
It's something to check off the
Yeah.
list. But like, you know, remind them like that the way that that makes their life easier. It's right there,
Yes.
it's right at home. They don't have to leave the house. They don't have to spend extra money on that.
Mhm.
Um, that sort of thing, you know?
Yeah, it saves time, money, energy. Like they don't even
Mhm.
have to think about it near as much as like now I have to get dressed to go out, to get in the car, to drive somewhere.
Right.
It's like
Mhm.
it's just right there. I just throw my clothes in.
Right. Right.
And
And I,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, I was gonna say, I think you had a really good little copy example for the laundromat specifically thing, like the laundry.
Yeah. Kiss laundromats goodbye with our in-unit washer and dryer. Save your quarters for the arcade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So see, I mean, you can make it fun, so it's not
Yeah.
boring. But you're also highlighting the benefit there. Okay, well, you're saving your quarters. You don't even have to go get quarters because a lot of people
Yes.
are carrying cash around. And if you've got some
Right.
quarter operated laundry, that's even more inconvenient.
Yep.
I mean, think about that. Think about what your renters want. Get those features and then highlight them and highlight the benefits that it'll add
Yes.
to their life.
Yep.
Yeah.
For sure. Another thing I just wanted to mention real quick. So Bob Bly is really good at taking features and turning them into benefits. So if that's like something that you're interested in learning, he has a good book. Not that we're not affiliates, but he has a really good book on how to do that. So like if you
Mhm.
need help with copywriting, he does go over a lot more than that, but like he's known for taking the features and turning them into benefits. So
Yeah. If you're nerds like us and you get all over the like copy, well, there's a lot of resources. Honestly, probably
for
one
sure.
Google search for books on copywriting are going to give you some of the best. And some of them are actually like uh classics. Like they're
Oh yeah.
pretty they're not like brand new books. These are books that have been around a
Yes.
little while because a lot of the best practices with copy just like work. They
Oh
just
yeah.
work.
Yeah.
It's human psychology.
Yeah.
You want to be careful, not with those books, but I just mean like a lot of things these days, people are kind of used to people trying to sell to them, and
Right.
they're used to things that are pretty clickbaity, that are just
Yep.
trying to get their attention and not really deliver on it. So I think people are a little bit more cautious than they used to be when it comes to like ads or
Yeah.
believing ads and
Oh
like,
yeah.
so I think that the strategies are still great. Just make sure that you don't lean too far into like the salesy
Yeah.
thing. That's not what like I have not met a single expert that ever recommended something like that. I just think that there are a lot of marketers who are maybe, maybe they're trying to figure it out. Maybe it's not as good. And sometimes it leans a lot into clickbait and people
Yep.
will lose trust. So you want to make sure
Yes.
that whatever you do say, you deliver on. And
Mm-hmm.
if you're looking for really good guidelines, honestly, there are so many resources on the internet.
Oh
If you
yeah.
want to learn it yourself, you
Yeah,
can.
for sure.
Otherwise, you can always hire somebody.
Oh yeah, absolutely. John Carlton talks about the clickbaity thing too in his Marketing Rebels course.
Mhm,
But it's like if if you promise something in your hook, you have to deliver on that. Otherwise, you've lost the sale.
mhm.
So yeah, you don't want to be clickbaity at all.
Yeah.
You're trying to
Yeah.
build that whole know, like, and trust thing. So make sure people can actually trust you.
Right. Yeah. And I think people don't realize like I said, the world's changing in the sense of
Hmm.
like we have a lot of different ways that we're advertising to people now.
Yes.
So
Oh
it's
yeah.
not just in like newspapers or catalogs or, even just on TV. Like we're inundated with ads, which means we're inundated with copy. Like even videos have been written. So even videos have copy, like the script
Yes.
copy. Like it's everywhere, So I do think people are a little bit more hesitant, a little bit more suspicious, So you think you have to work a little bit harder to really build that trust with people.
Hmm.
So it helps to know a little bit about what you're doing, and it helps just to check and make sure that everything you've said you're willing to deliver on.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. And like we talked about in the other video, authenticity is huge right now for that
Mhm.
reason. Because people have been lied to with the clickbait titles and stuff. And when they click over, it's
Yeah.
not what they were expecting.
Mhm. Yep.
So Yeah, being
Yeah.
authentic is also huge.
Yeah, I mean, good marketing is good marketing, and it's been that way for a long time. I think it's gotten a bad rap because of these like clickbaity things, or like you're
Yes,
leading so much into sales and you're,
yes.
pulling the wool over people's eyes in a sense. You're taking advantage of them. Um, the thing is, it is persuasive, which means
Hmm.
that it's a powerful tool.
Yeah,
But in order to maintain trust with your customers, you have to take that with a sense of like responsibility, that like
yeah,
maybe you do know how to be persuasive, but you're not going to manipulate someone
yes,
into making a certain decision. You're going to just kind of tell them what to do next because you have the thing they need,
yep,
not because you're trying to like I said, take advantage of them.
yes,
It's you're like, hey, I have this thing. I know it would benefit you. Here's what you need to do next to get it. So I think there is kind of a fine line sometimes between being persuasive and like manipulating people, but
yes.
you'll know. I mean, if you're being honest and you actually deliver on all the things you promise,
Hmm.
you're just offering them the thing that's going to meet their needs. And
Yep,
that's what marketing is. It's
yep,
you finding your right audience. And copywriting is just what lets you do that, really.
yes, exactly. I love how you put that. That's exactly right. Because these are
Mhm,
people, they need a home anyway.
mhm,
So it's not like you're manipulating them. It's not, that's something they need. And if you are the best place for them, you're
mhm.
just helping them.
Right. By giving them by listing, by showing the benefits, listing the
Yeah.
features, like making sure that they're aware of all the things you have to offer and why they
Hmm.
might have the best, you know, apartment lifestyle they could have at your place.
Yeah.
Um, it can be tricky, like different renters are looking for different things, but um just making sure that you are highlighting that, and you know your renters, you're there with them all the time, you've heard their complaints, you've heard their
Yes.
successes, you've heard all of it, like what is working for them. Highlight what's working, and prospects who are looking for that are going to find it. um and then just, at that point, you've got a hook, you've got kind of your first line in your copy, like you've written this in a structure that kind of helps them follow it logically. The last thing is your call to action where you tell them what to do next. And it's pretty easy. It's an easy sell if you've done all of those
Oh, yeah.
things.
Absolutely.
Um, yeah, I think it's just that part of it shouldn't be that hard. Selling to them in that sense shouldn't be that hard because you've listed all the reasons that what you offer is what they need.
For sure. Yeah. You want to, like, you want to be very clear about the next steps too, just so that they know. Because that's going to
Mhm,
be like a question on their mind, especially if you've done all the work to tell them why you're
mhm.
that awesome and why you're a good fit.
Yeah,
They're gonna be
yeah,
like, okay, well, what do I do next?
right,
So the
right.
call to action definitely takes care of that. You'd be like, schedule a tour or apply now, or, but you want to make
Mhm,
sure that they know what to do next. And it's like, we don't want to just assume that they would know, hey, go
right,
back up here, click this button type of a
right.
thing.
Put it right there.
Yes, put it right there.
Put it right
For
there. Like
sure.
put the button right there where they were just reading, where they were just looking. Give them the chance to like click immediately
Yeah.
on the next thing. Don't make it difficult for them. And also don't muddy it by saying, well, you can schedule a tour or apply now or reach out to us if you have
Yeah.
questions. Like
Mm-hmm.
they can do all of those things. And if they really have a question, they will find a way to contact you. It's on your website. They're all there. They'll find a way to reach out. But your goal is to tell them what to do next based on what you just said and what you just highlighted. So if you've just been like, hey, check out you're talking about your 3-bedroom floor plans and how you have 2.5 baths, and that's really unique.
Yeah.
And for your 3-bedroom apartment, and that you've got all the square footage and these amazing like windows, and the in-unit laundry, like we talked about, like
Yeah.
highlighting all of these incredible features, and that their lifestyle is going to be so much more convenient, easier because they have access to that. Um, and like, oh, and bring your furry friend with you. You've highlighted all these things, you've talked about it. At the end, make sure that your call to action fits that by simply saying something like, ready to see it in person,
Yeah.
schedule a tour. Like you've highlighted all this, well, you want to see it in person, schedule a tour. You want to see what life would be like here, schedule a tour. Or if your goal at that point, you're like, I have sold this so well, they're just going to want to live here. That's fine, but commit and just say, like, if this sounds like the kind of lifestyle you want, or if you feel like you could live here, like apply now and have the button right there. Like, it's not so much about what the call to action is, it's just that you have one so that they know what to do, so that they stay engaged with you.
Yes,
Um,
for sure. Because you don't want to miss out on renters because they don't know what to do next, and you don't want to assume that they know what to do next. So you got to be like very clear, just spell it out. This is the next step. But
Exactly. Yep. So just like that, put it where it needs to be, say exactly what it is, and it'll increase your chances of getting leads and leases for sure. As far as that goes, so that's the basic structure. If it's shorter, obviously you're not gonna have as much in the body, but you usually will still have a call to action. If it's a sales page, it can get kind of, complicated if it's long. You can always look up some clear structures that we don't have a time to like go into if you need help with that. But otherwise, you can always just, like I said, like we were saying, write it out like it logically makes sense. We've got a few extra tips, things that you might want to consider that will just make your copy even better. So that was kind of like, here's the overview about how copy works, about how you want to structure it. But some of the other things that we would recommend people do are to have like a really, really great offer. You want to make sure it's something that renters like, they gotta have it, like that they literally can't miss. So things like those deals we talked about, or like a month of free rent, or credits for certain things. Maybe you're covering their internet for a few months, or they sign on with you, they get a TV. I don't know how like exciting you want to be or what you can offer, but I think that make it something that they would be like, I literally can't miss that. I want that. It's a really good way to get better hooks and to get people who are a little bit more committed. Maybe they're a little bit more down that line of like, yeah, I'm thinking I'm going to come here because the offer is so good.
for sure, yeah. So you always want to test your copy, like we were talking about, like with the A/B testing. So like email services will let you do that with the headlines. So you can see what people are actually clicking on, like what gets the most opens. So and like in ads too, like there might be a headline that gets more attention than the other one, but you want to be able to test that and you want to see which one's working better so you can put your money more towards the one that is working better. So yeah, you got to just keep doing what works, and then you can switch it up if things aren't working. But yeah, you always want to
Yeah.
test.
Absolutely. Because like we said, there is a certain style, a certain kind of formula that can work with copy because, that's how human brains work.
Mhm.
But you don't always know which thing is going to be the most effective or which things would be most appealing to people. And the only way to tell is to test it. Your call to action, you could just change that on 2 different ads. The wording, the color of the button, anything like that can have an effect. So like, it's just important to test it. And I think you'll see better results if you're willing to like really follow it along and then
Yeah,
focus on those things.
for sure.
Yeah. Beyond that, I would say too, make sure that you're talking like a human. We've kind of already said that a lot of this is like natural language. You want to appeal to your audience. But with the rise of like AI and a lot of AI tools, it can be tricky. I mean, and a lot of us kind of want to find ways to use it and rely on it and to sort of shortcut the process. In our last video, we talked a little bit about that. With AI, it's tricky unless you really, really know how to use it to get anything that sounds conversational. It's great for research. It could even help you maybe structure like a sales page or a post. It can definitely give you kind of an outline. It can support you that way and help you kind of speed the process along. But often the way that it writes content is pretty robotic. It can be really dull. A lot of the words that it uses are at a really advanced reading level, which nobody wants actually. It doesn't matter. You'd be a doctor, a lawyer, you don't want that in your like in the ad copy. And it's just not easy to read. And people don't have a lot of time and you don't have a lot of time to grab their attention. So like it's just important to consider those things. I would recommend that you just focus on, if you're going to use any AI tools, that you use it as kind of a sounding board or as a basic structure, and then you write it yourself. Just do whatever you can to make it sound human. AI is just not amazing at writing things that are persuasive. It tends not to have like actual opinions. It's like, well, here are some things about that topic. And so you're gonna do a better job if you do that part of it yourself.
Yeah, you're trying to build relationships with your renters, so, and AI is not just, it's just not the best for that. It is
Yeah,
robotic, it's kind of
right.
boring, it's
It's
very
not there yet.
formulaic.
Yeah.
Another thing you want to do is personalize your copy when you can. So like you can do this in emails. It's actually really easy because you just go in there and you're like, here, I'm writing this email. Here, I want to put their name right here, and you can do that. So you personalize it when you can because you want to talk to them. Like we just like you're building a relationship with them. So the more you can personalize it and make it more towards them, the better
Mhm.
it is for building that relationship. So yeah, you can put their names in emails, or personalization is, it's a little harder like on a website or on social media, but you can talk to them still, where it's like you use like, you are you looking for an apartment in this area, or
Mhm.
hey renters, if you're trying to move, like
Right.
we've got availability and this is what we have. So
Mhm.
if you can make it personal, definitely try to do that.
Right. Yeah, like this is what your life is going to be like here.
Yes.
Keeping what you know your residents want in mind and highlighting those things like does kind of make it a little bit more personal. There are also other ways that I think are evolving, you know, ways of like keeping track of where people are clicking and things to make the
Mm,
experience more personalized.
mhm.
That's not something we could cover here, and it's not as much about copy, though that would be part of each step. But there are ways to make things more of a personalized experience,
For sure.
even when you maybe can't include their name or you don't know it yet. Or you catch it early on, you know, if you can get them to like subscribe or they like give a, you know, maybe you've got a killer blog on your apartment website that talks about all these fun things in the area and they want to subscribe to that. Or if on the website you can say, hey, like, you know, they've scheduled a tour and you've already collected that info, then you can have a pop-up that says, hey, you know, and has their name as kind of a follow-up. There are things you can build in, but it does get
Mhm.
a lot more complicated
Yeah,
uh, from there. So I would just say, any place that you know you can do it, do it. Any place you can't do it, lean into the like the conversational language style, like Danny was saying. It's going to be your best bet in making them feel like you're talking directly to them.
for sure. Especially if you're talking to their needs,
Mhm.
because then they're going to feel seen and heard.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and then don't forget to use keywords. I'm sure that we'll cover this a little bit more in content because a lot of times search engine optimization is a big part of that. And keywords are what make SEO basically happen. But algorithms as part of like a search engine or even on social media platforms are going to like rank and categorize things based on whatever keywords you use, because they want to show them to the right people. So I mean, that
Yep.
even includes ads. I mean, you're going to include certain keywords about the location, you know, the city and state you're in an ad because it's going to show that ad to people who are already looking for apartments in that area. And that's what you want them to know. I mean, if Google is following things that way too, so you know, if people are doing those kinds of searches and you have that kind of copy, that kind of content, that's you're going to show up more easily to the people who are actually looking for what you have to offer. So it's not something I think we talk about as much with copy, just because it's more persuasive, but it is also necessary. So web pages where they are include copy, like everything like that needs keywords. So.
For sure.
Yeah. So I'd say those are kind of the biggest things with copy. I think we've covered a lot of good stuff here. Like we mentioned, we did do a kind of an overview of the difference between copy and content. If you want to see that, you can check it out below. We're also going to be doing a video on content specifically. So we're going to do a little bit more of a deep dive into that kind of educational, informational side of like website, like web writing, basically, and the way you're going to reach people that way. So make sure that you like and subscribe so you can get that next video. Or if you're just interested in, apartment marketing, we're sure to have more videos about that coming out. And yeah, thanks for staying with us, and we'll see you next time.